if you go, for example, to California, obviously some of the plans will cover you with their travel benefit. We do not have that yet. Of course, they are covered for emergencies and urgent care while they're traveling in other states. They just don't have minor routine care. And just a snapshot of our plan. I don't know if you guys can see it from there, but this is Maricopa, County, Pima, Santa Cruz, and Yuma County. We're not very strong in Pima County because we just don't have the network in Pima County, so our plan isn't very strong. We're waiting till we get the network, and then we'll improve our benefits. But just to go over Maricopa County, some of you might know, or maybe Kat, but Banner was the fastest growing plan, Medicare plan, in the past 2 years. And then you know what happens, and you guys will see this once you're in the business for a while. 1 year carrier is really good, then they might go down a year later or something like that. It goes up and down, right? So Banner's in our down year this year because we were the #1 plan for the past 2 years. And what happens, you know, when you have the #1 plan, because we have low copays, you know, we had a lot, $5,000 in dental, low copays for hospital. You end up getting more of the sicker members. Sadly, unfortunately, then you lose money when you have the sick members, right? So you'll see the plans will go like this. And so this year, we're having a down year because we had to make up for having all those members that maybe aren't as healthy, right? So what we did is we looked at our members and we looked at the stats, and we discovered that members go into the hospital 1 in 7 years. So what we did is we decided to go ahead and raise our copay for this year. So it's, you can't see it on here, but it was $125 a day for days 1 through 3, went up to $275 a day for days 1 through 5. But we thought, okay, 1 in 7 years, we can raise that a little. So we tried to look at what do members utilize the most, and we tried to keep those down. So for example, urgent care, members use urgent care a lot. So that's a 0 copay. So I'm going over kind of what our strong suits are. Lab, everybody's 0. X-rays are 0 copay. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So before I worked for a carrier, I was an agent. And I remember when I sold, most of my members couldn't afford to go to physical therapy. They would tell me, oh, I can't afford to go 2-3 times a week at $20, $25 copay a pop. So with our plan, when you talk to your members, and someone that goes to physical therapy quite often, that 0 copay is going to be a blessing, right? So that's a huge savings. That's where we're strong. I had one of my agents, she was telling me, you know, her Banner member, because our benefits kind of decreased this year, they said, oh, I want to go with Blue Cross. She said, absolutely, I'm happy to switch you to Blue Cross, but let's go side by side and make sure it's a good fit for you. So this member happened to go to physical therapy quite often. They go to the urgent care quite often, and some other things. So it turned out actually Banner was a better fit. And it's not always going to be that way, right? And we know that Banner's not for everybody, but it's not always going to be just looking at who has the lowest copays and the most dental, right? You kind of want to look at what does your member utilize the most to see which plan is the right plan. So let's see, OTC benefits. So we took a big hit this year, $25 every 3 months with no rollover. Word on the street is we're going to raise that for next year. We're going to raise that OTC back up. We're going to raise our dental back up. That's not set in stone, but that's what we're talking about. Specialist visit. It's still really competitive. We went from 0 to $15. So it's $15 copay for a specialist visit compared to the other carriers. That's still really competitive. But another strong suit that I like to point out with Banner is our drug coverage. Most of the carriers have a deductible for tiers 3 and 4. We have a 0 deductible. Not only that, if your member is willing to use mail order pharmacy, they get 3 months for the price of 2 months for tiers 1 through 4. On a tier 3 medication, that's a $47 savings every 3 months. And a tier 4 medication, that's $100 savings every 3 months. And you know, on the seniors on the fixed income, that's a huge savings. So if they're willing to use mail order and they have a tier 4 med, instead of it being $300 for 3 months supply, it's only $200. So just keep that in mind.